Welcome to Picks with the Professor, the show where a real statistics professor gives you sports betting tips. This is Major League Baseball for Tuesday, May 21st. Sorry, missed you on Monday. I kind of mentioned this before, some crazy family things happening with the little ones. And Monday morning, early on, we knew it would be a hectic day, a lot of doctor stuff, a lot of, imaging and blood work and running from here to there. And so that made recording on Sunday night just not a smart choice for that. So again, apologies for that. But it's a good reminder that if you're interested in picks every single day, analysis every single day, I'll give you a little bit of sneak peek here. Everything's covered over on Dub Club. The only thing, sometimes we don't have the time to do the show because it takes time to prep for it, build these slides up, record it, download it, and if there's any edits and upload and all that other stuff. But we never take a single day off here. I work 361 days a year. I get 4 days off in the All-Star break, which I'm looking forward to, of course, because it's the only 4 days off I get all year. Every other day of the year, you're getting early projections, early picks, update in the morning picks in case anything has changed, which really matters for baseball with weather, of course. And so all of that's over on Dub Club. Recap of Sunday and so far things going here. The first 5 extra credit pick started off great, has really struggled here down the stretch, of May. Play of the day, struggled to start, doing a lot better, going the right direction. The parlay of the day has kind of been hitting for us. Now we're up to a 13% ROI on the sample size of 27 two-team parlays, but most of those over on Dub Club. There were a few of them here early on, but those have been on Dub Club, mainly because a lot of times I want to wait till the day of to figure out what those are. But you already have one here for Tuesday's games. We already gave out to everybody on Dub Club, a little two-teamer that I like. Most of those are anywhere between even money and never more than plus 200. We're never going for something too big, but a lot of times, plus 150 type thing. And that's why we can beat one game under and still be positive there. That's kind of just the way it goes. There's never really, it's hard to say one thing what will work. The first 5 picks we were given on Twitter, and I made the comment on Twitter at the time with some that we were never going to maintain a 20% ROI or whatever that was. We were getting some good variance there, and lately we had some bad variance, and it's come down. I think we've had a little bit more bad luck lately than we had good luck earlier. I think it's we've had so many first 5 picks here this last week, and it was a rough week, but so many of them lost in the 5th inning, would have won in the 6th inning. Overs that got all but 1 run in the 1st inning and then nothing the rest of the time, and that sort of thing will happen. It'll balance out, but you just never know. And so lately it's been the parlays have been working. Then we're going to have another stretch where those 5 of those lose in a row, but we're going to win 5 play of the days in a row or something. So it's all about the long term. We haven't really built up a big enough sample size to really see that here yet. But if you've been with us in the past, you trust that we'll get there eventually. We always do. But again, last week, not great. Just as a reminder, if you are newer here, when things are good, when things aren't good, I'm always looking, always making tweaks, always trying to make sure that things are going well, because sometimes you win and it's kind of lucky and it's not really, everything's still not clicking. You're just getting that good variance. And so I'm always looking at things, trying to make sure that if that's the case, it's fine. We love that. We love our good variance, but we'll make sure that if I need to make adjustments and little tweaks here and there, that we're doing that. When things are bad, we don't overreact either, but it's the same process for me, constantly looking at how is this reading? Are we biased anywhere? Where we have some gaps? Made a few tweaks for this last week, kind of always making some little tweaks under the scene. Sometimes they're bigger than others, but always just tinkering, always trying to make sure that it gets better and better. And the idea is that every year the product gets a little bit better. And when we're doing, down the road, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, whatever, that it will be, a much better product than we have today because of all the things that I'll learn in the next 10 years, the next 20 years, and all the improvements that we'll continue to make. So always trying to get better, never just resting on our laurels when things are good or bad. Last week wasn't good. I think a lot of it was some bad variance, but we did make some tweaks just to make sure the things that weren't bad variants hopefully get solved in the future. So confident with where we are. Again, the parlay is doing really well. Who knows what it'll be this week that'll do well. But again, the top, handful of plays, these honorable mentions, these A grades, I feel pretty confident with them. We already got a winner here on Monday afternoon for one of the afternoon games, which is good. And we've already got 3 B grade winners. And so again, the B grade is the best grade that the model can give. The A grades are the B grades that I like the most. And so of the model's best plays, already 3 winners here on Monday, and we're not even to dinner time yet. So a stronger start to the week. Hopefully we can bounce back after what was, again, a very frustrating week. And of course, reminder, there's that QR code. The link is in the show description. If you are interested in joining us on Dub Club, the Honor Roll package is the all access package, has everything, the Discord chat, more picks, A grades, play of the day, game predictions, information, details galore. And again, I'll give you a little bit of a sneak preview of that here in the show. And on Twitter, when we give out the first 5 pick, give you a little sneak preview there. So you get two games, all the information possible. You get that for every single game. There is a play of the day only package available if you're interested in just that. Some quick reminders though here before we get started. Information about the model and the community, pickswiththeprofessor.com/new. Weather is subject to change as we're over 24 hours away from first pitch on all these games at the time of this recording. We are projecting an average game. One game, I do not know what's going to happen. Nobody does. Sometimes weird things happen. The idea is that we're thinking about this in the terms of 20 games, 40 games, 60 games, and saying on average what happens. And if we are projecting that fairly well, which Sideline has historically done for us, then that tells us the right price we need to be investing it to make sure we have a positive expected value play. That's what makes anything a good bet, at the right price or the right number. But of course, as always, take what you like and leave the rest. And last but not least, if you could like the show, we would like that. Starting us off here, 6:10 p.m. Eastern, Mets and the Guardians will be fairly warm, mid-80s to start, around 80 degrees to close. We'll be blowing out at 5 to 10 miles an hour. Pitcher-friendly park, but a very hitter-friendly night with regards to weather. Adrian Hauser and Carlos Carrasco. Adrian Hauser pulling up the rear of the starting pitching ratings. Zero reason why you should be starting. That's really all there is to it. They have better guys. Really nothing else to say. Carlos Carrasco, not much better. 5.16 ERA, and when you look at the underlying metrics, that's pretty spot on. He's 4th worst, 5th worst. I don't know. Math is hard. Not good. The relievers for both these teams are pretty solid. The Mets relief pitcher ratings going backwards. Part of that is really Edwin Diaz. The rest of the bullpen's been great, but Diaz has really struggled here this last month. Still a good set of relievers. We're not going to overreact. We're not going to say, he's given up runs in whatever 3 outings, and Edwin Diaz is a good enough relief pitcher. He's had 2-month stretches where he hasn't given up runs in 3 outings, right? But that is a little bit of a concern. Guardians bullpen, we love them. This game is fascinating to me because from a total perspective, the books are hanging 9 on this one, and the model suggests a little bit over 9. I was a little bit surprised the model didn't project it higher. I think it just goes to show the strength of the bullpens. Both of these offenses being subpar, very possible that these offenses can disappear from time to time. And the fact that the model is looking at these starting pitchers and saying, yes, they're terrible, but at least the relievers behind them are going to probably get them out of the game quicker, as opposed to a team without a bullpen where they're trying to push them further. And so I think it's just a testament to these relievers and these offenses. Its projected total is only 9.1, because with these 2 starting pitchers and a warm night, even though Cleveland's a pitcher-friendly ballpark, wind blowing out, I would have thought this projected total would have been closer to 10. And so the fact that the model's only at 9 tells us that, maybe the total is actually priced pretty right at 9, and that's where it should be. But we actually love the Guardians here. The model has them at 58% to win. The market is 53%. It's starting to feel a little bit like 2022. And if you were here with us then, we loved us the Mariners and the Guardians. And the Guardians were one of the best teams to us that year. We backed them, 4 times a week, it seemed like, and they won 3 of them. We're going to have the Guardians here as your free show 8 grade play, -117. And there's your sneak peek of everything you get over on Dub Club. You get more A grade plays, and you get all this information right here. But as you can see on the screen there, the model says -125 or better is the B grade threshold. And so that's the model giving its highest stamp of approval on it. And I love the Guardians here. It's not that I like Carlos Carrasco. I don't. But anytime you get a chance to fade Adrian Hauser, you kind of have to take advantage of it. While he's probably not quite as bad as at 7.44 ERA, his xFIP is 6.03 in over 30 innings. So it's not like it's a nothing sample size. Not a very good pitcher. In fact, he should have a lower ERA because he's playing one of the more pitcher-friendly ballparks, probably the second most pitcher-friendly ballpark in Major League Baseball right now. anytime you can fade him, you got to do it. This Guardians team's been really good to us. Love the Guardians here, -117. Lock it in here for your A grade play. A ton of other free suggestions later on, things that I'll tell you that I like. So stick around for that. And that begins here with the Padres and the Reds. Similar weather situation in Cincinnati as Cleveland. It's not overly shocking. Mid-80s to start, around 80 degrees to finish. The wind's a little bit different, though. We'll be blowing a little bit in, a little bit across. It's going to be important to keep an eye on that because if it's more across, this is going to play like a pretty hitter-friendly night. One of the more hitter-friendly nights we've had in Cincinnati because it's been relatively cool so far in the Cincinnati home games this season. If it's going to blow in, it'll play like it's played most of the year. It's still a hitter-friendly ballpark. It still has small dimensions, but it's not going to be quite summer Cincinnati where the runs can really start flying. The ball can really start flying and the runs can just start, coming in bunches. So whether that wind's across or in is going to really matter because it's going to be about 10 miles an hour. So if it's in, it's going to make that park play only somewhat hitter-friendly. But if it's across, it's going to be a pretty hitter-friendly night there for Joe Musgrove and Andrew Abbott. Musgrove, I don't even know what to make of this guy. He's been injured maybe multiple ways this year. He's looked terrible. He's looked like he's found it. Now he's coming back without a minor league rehab start. He wasn't out for very long. Buyer beware, I guess, is all I'll say. Anything you're backing Musgrove or this under, he's had starts this year where he's looked like he's got it figured out. He's getting the swings and misses. In that park, without a rehab start, he's on my fantasy team, and he won't be in the lineup on Tuesday night. Gonna keep him on the bench. So it doesn't mean he can't do well. I'm very leery here. Andrew Abbott, not as good as at 306 ERA. 475 xFIP or 448 xFIP. Now he actually projects a little bit better than that. I think his underlying metrics may be a little bit inflated so far this year, but more average than good. So I know the results have been there. But again, remember ERA. We'll talk about this a lot if you're new here. Earned runs are maybe not the best metric for a pitcher because they attribute the run 100% to the pitcher or 100% to the fielder in the case of an error, when that's oftentimes not the case. Home run, yes, but a home run is part of what's in FIP, right? A walk, right? That's all in the pitch of the fielder, nothing to do with that. Well, that's part of FIP, right? Part of xFIP as well. So if we're just looking at his ERA, yes, that's been good so far, but it's not the most predictive measure. I think I'm not overly high on Andrew Abbott. I think he's okay. I don't think he's sure. I think this Padres offense is pretty good. They have been really up and down. I mean, they've had stretches where they look fantastic. Sunday Night Baseball, against the Braves. And then here they've already played game one. Nice comeback win, putting up 6 runs against Ronaldo Lopez and one of the best bullpens, top 5 bullpen in baseball. And they have times against the Rockies where they couldn't score at all. So this Padres offense is all over the map. Overall, they're still pretty good. And I'll say the same thing here that I've been saying all year, that I feel like there's just not a lot of offenses you can really trust right now in baseball. Everyone, you kind of have to trust the Dodgers offense. The Astros offense is starting to really come around. They look pretty good here. They've, been winning pretty consistently 2 out of 3 here the last couple of weeks. They're one of the better offenses. The Yankees offense is pretty solid and they're winning a lot of games, but it gets real slim pickings after the Braves. I guess those are your top 4 offenses. And after that, the Padres offense is good and they've got the pieces, but once you get past that, every offense has a flaw. And the Padres can just kind of, never know what they're going to get. But I'm not like this against a guy like Andrew Abbott. They should have success. But again, I'm just a caution with the Padres. You just never know. Of note, both these bullpens grayed out terribly. We've got the Padres winning this 56% of the time. The market's at 52%. So this is Padres or pass for me. I couldn't back the Reds here at home. That said, again, I'm a little bit hesitant to back Joe Musgrove. So the B grade threshold for this is -112. You can get -114. So it's close enough if you like the Padres, if you're comfortable enough with this, who the heck knows the starting pitchers. The Padres have the better offense. That said, that's really the only big thing in their favor, and Joe Musgrove can completely blow up. And so I'm not sure I'm loving that play. I'd be a little bit more inclined to look at the over. The total is 9 right now, and it's -110 on the over and the under. The model has it more at 9.5. And so it's Padres or pass, but I'd personally pass. I just don't know if I trust Joe Musgrove and go with the over. The other way to look at this would be a Padres team total over. You're probably going to be looking at something in the 4.5 with some juice. Maybe a -120 if I had to guess, maybe a -125. That might be a decent look as the Padres in that park. against Andrew Abbott, who I think is a little bit overvalued against the Reds relievers, ought to put up some runs. So a couple different ways you can look at that game. Giants, the Pirates, 6:40 p.m. Eastern, low 80s to start, mid 70s to close. Same wind situation as Cincinnati that we're going to want to check back in. A little bit less strong, more 5 to 10 mile an hour, whereas Cincinnati's more 10 mile an hour, but a little bit in, a little bit across. That could really matter. Making the park play a little bit more neutral or a little bit more hitter friendly because the slight warmth. Logan Webb and Martin Perez. Logan Webb's fantastic. One of the better pitchers in baseball. On the outside of that top trio, that top trio, we've got Wheeler, Skubal, and Glass now as the top three guys running away with it, the top three active starting pitchers. Webb on the outside, that looking in, mainly because of his road struggles this year. That's been kind of a thing with him here where his road numbers haven't been as good. That's a little bit to be expected because he plays his home games in San Francisco, which is one of the more pitcher-friendly ballparks in the country. So to some extent, the model is building that in and saying, yeah, it's not that we think he's going to do better at home as much as it is his results will be better with regards to the ERA because he's playing in a more pitcher-friendly ballpark. That doesn't change his strikeout rate or his walk rate. That should be about the same. Now, all pitchers do a little bit better at home. They're more comfortable with the mound, a little bit more comfortable with the backdrop. That said, of all pitchers in baseball, we talked about Logan Webb might be one of the ones that the splits are a little bit severe, makes you just a little bit of a caution. That doesn't mean I don't love Logan Webb, but I'm just a little bit cautious on the road. Really good pitcher. But again, those road home splits are just it's kind of like what it should be, but it's kind of just a little bit concerning. And so I'm kind of on the fence there, honestly. Hopefully you can kind of tell that in my voice here. Giants offensively, just very average. Getting a guy like Soler back really helps. They are extremely right-hand heavy now, especially with the way that the injuries have hit them and who's in, who's out. That's going to make them better against the lefty. So that's of note here that the model thinks the Giants have a pretty big offensive edge against the Pirates, mainly because Martin Perez being a lefty. On top of that, Perez is not a very good pitcher, 4.86 ERA. His underlying metrics are actually a little bit better than that. I don't think he's quite as bad as that ERA, but he's not a very good pitcher, and he hasn't been for quite some time. He had one pretty decent season with the Rangers, but even when you looked at the underlying metrics there, a lot of that was smoke and mirrors. Bullpen-wise, probably about the same, not really much of a difference. The biggest thing is the Giants are going to have a pretty big edge starting off the game on the mound, and they're going to have a big edge offensively. We've got them winning 61% of the time. It's definitely Giants or pass, and I have no problem backing Logan Webb. It's not my favorite play of the day, but if you're able to get this minus 125, the Beager threshold minus 143 is clearly in it. I'm not necessarily saying I would go full board just because, again, there's that little caution of Logan Webb on the road. Has struggled a little bit, but I'm not sure it's enough to get me off of this play because the Giants should be bigger favorites in this. Their offense can be really hit or miss, but so can the Pirates. And when you look at the guys that are going to be in this lineup here on Tuesday night, it's hard to come away with any other thought than the Giants have the better offense. The Giants have the better starting pitching. The model thinks they have the better bullpen as well. They should be more in the minus 150 range, not minus 125. So even though it's Logan Webb on the road, that doesn't mean we should necessarily run away from it, maybe play it at a little bit less, but it's Giants or pass. The other thing here, the model likes the over. What I will say is I just don't love going over 7.5s. It's the same thing we talk about with football and key numbers, but I think key numbers in baseball here are even a little bit more important. It's that with extra innings, and especially with the lower key numbers, right? 11 doesn't really matter as much because you don't get a ton of 5-5 games, but 3-3 is not a crazy spot to be at. And so getting from 3-3 to 7 or 4-4 to 9, you don't have that possibility to get to 8. And so the model says the most likely outcome of this game is to have something like 8 or 9 runs. And so we don't get that extra boost. I'm not saying you shouldn't play the over, but going over 7.5 where you get the win on 8, it's a little bit, you don't quite get that same oomph as if this was a projected total of 9.42 and the total was 8.5, where you'd say, hey, the most likely scenario is 9, but if we fall just short of that and we get 4-4, boom, we've won. The most likely scenario here is 8, but if we fall just short of that, 4-3, we lose, right? So we don't get that added boost. So it's over or pass. Maybe the first 5 over makes a little more sense. I think how you feel about Logan Webb on the road is going to influence whether you do that or not because you take the bullpen completely out of it. Maybe check back on the weather, of course, but it should be a nice night for runs. The only issue there is at least with the first 5, you don't have that the books build in a little bit of that slight tilt to the over for the full game because the possibility of extras, and that's not really working in our favor in this game. And so we're kind of missing out on that. So it's over or pass. Maybe first 5 makes more sense. It's Giants or pass. I think the Giants make a lot of sense. Just probably wouldn't go full bore on it because of Logan on the road. I have just a tiny bit of concern, which is why, maybe why I like the Guardians play a little bit more here than I like the Giants. Brewers and the Marlins. Robert Gasser and Trevor Rogers, a pair of lefties. Gasser's looked fantastic so far in his first 2 starts. The underlying metrics, a little bit of a mixed bag. His xFIP's in the 4s. That's more so what we're going to be going off of to project at this point. It's been good so far. I'm just not quite sure I'm sold just yet. Again, the results have been there. So if he keeps that up, they're great. I'll be going in the right direction. But there is a little bit of a concern there. Trevor Rogers, while the results haven't been there, 5.79 ERA, xFIP of 4.22, I think he's not bad. As you can see with the grade, 106. That's not good either. Both of these pitchers definitely have some issues, some concerns, some questions. Subpar pitching, subpar hitting to the Brewers, at least close to league average at this point. 2 bullpens that the model seems to trust relatively well. We've got the Brewers winning this only 51% of the time. The market's got it at 55. I think the biggest difference here between the model and the market is the fact that my model is it thinks that these 2 starting pitchers are close. That there's not much of a difference there. And I know there's a handful of people, and I don't know, the person who probably thinks this might not be watching this because they might be tired of hearing me say this type of stuff. But if you're looking at just ERA, you should look at this and you'd say, oh, Gasser's the much better pitcher. Okay, again, ERA may not be the most predictive. Number 2, that's 11 innings in the big leagues. Let's look at his minor league numbers as well. Number 3, we know things about prospects, how they come up, how the minor league numbers translate, right? And number 4, the numbers from last year for Rogers, year before that, right? Those matter. And number 5, again, look at the walk rate, look at the exit velocity, look at the hard hit rate, look at the strikeout rate, look at all those other things, right? Left on base percentage, all these other underlying metrics. The model's looking at this, taking all that into account and saying, these 2 pitchers are about the same. I think both of them have fairly high error bars. And you see that with Trevor Rogers because 2 years ago he was really good and last year he was terrible. Pretty high error bars from Gasser because he's a young guy, right? Young guys always, 2 starts in his career, right? Always have bigger error bars. But I think the market is looking at this like the Brewers have the edge at starting pitcher because we know they have the edge on offense. The Marlins offense isn't very good at all. And so we know the Brewers have an edge on offense. Check. I think the market's looking at the same to have the edge starting pitcher, and the model's saying not so fast. And so the model sideline, the model that I built here, is saying Brewers have the edge on offense, games in Miami that about cancels out, pretty close to a coin toss. We'll lean Brewers, but we're not too heavy on them. The market's saying, yes, the game's in Miami, but the Brewers have an edge with the bats, and the Brewers have the edge of starting pitchers, so the Brewers should be bigger favorites. So the model's telling us Marlins are pass. I would pass simply because I don't trust this Marlins team, and this Brewers team is pretty solid. The reason I would say pass is that just looking at what we've seen from these offenses here, I don't really want to be on the Marlins. I'd rather be on the Brewers, but I don't want to be on the Brewers on the road at minus 130. That price is really high for a guy like Robert Gasser, who might be fantastic. I just need to see more before I really feel comfortable laying that sort of price on the road with a young guy like that. So for me, it's a pass. But we are right at that big year threshold. So the model thinks there's some value in the Marlins. Just kind of depends on how bold you are, how brave you are there, how you feel about the Brewers offense. If you feel like they're probably just average or they are better than that, then maybe the Marlins make a little bit of sense here at something like plus 120 in one of those type of games where you say, hey, 50-50 game, anything can happen. Plus 120 odds makes a lot of sense. I could not disagree with that if that was the stance that you were to take. Total in this game, 8. Model says a little bit over that. Kind of mentioned with the 7.5, over 8. Over 8, under 8's kind of a whatever. It's over or pass, I guess. Maybe the first 5 makes a little bit more sense. That market hasn't come out yet, so we'll see. And again, all the first 5 information and picks and A grades, all of that is over on Double Club. That link's in the show description. Rangers and the Phillies also at 6:40 p.m. Eastern. Almost 80 degrees to start, about 70 degrees to close. We'll be blowing out at 5 to 10 miles an hour. We're going to make it a little bit hitter-friendly there here on Tuesday night. John Gray has been excellent in his 9 starts, 2.08 ERA. He's been outdone by Ranger Suarez in his 9 starts, just 1.37 ERA. Both of these guys' underlying metrics are not as good as that, but both of them are actually pretty solid. John Gray, xFIP 347, that's really good. Ranger Suarez xFIP 272. That is insanely good for the fact that we're up to about 60 innings for him so far. Two really good pitchers, two pitchers that are in form right now that look great. Cannot say anything bad about them. We talk about guys who have good starts to the season, a lot of times smoke and mirrors, that sort of thing. Nope, these are real. Both these guys look great. They're in form. If they can have years like this, it's going to be career years for both these guys. We've been high on Suarez for some time now. And Gray's been a pretty solid pitcher as well. So two great starting pitchers. Phillies bullpen better than the Rangers bullpen. Offensively, both of them are pretty solid. Again, the Phillies offense, jumps more into a top 10 offense with Trey Turner back, but still solid, still above average here. Otherwise, and a slight edge over the Rangers offense. The biggest thing with the Rangers right now, of note in this game, the thing that really matters, the reason why you're watching this show to get this information, Rangers are very left-handed heavy. They're left-handed against the lefty. Their offense drops to a 92 grade against the lefty Ranger Suarez. And so that's part of where the Phillies are going to get a little bit of a boost here. Here's the interesting thing is even with that boost for the Phillies or the detriment to the Rangers, we've still got the Phillies winning 2% less than the market does. And so what that is to say is I think it's a good opportunity to pass on this game with regards to the side, simply because knowing the Rangers are really left-handed heavy, I don't want to be on the Rangers in this game. The Phillies have better bullpen. I think they got better offense. They got the better starting pitching. Nothing against John Gray. But even with all that said, the model says the Phillies should only be priced at minus 130 and they're minus 150. And so I'd like to be on the Phillies. I just think they're priced really too high. So I'd be passing on the side here. Total-wise, though, the market, it's at 7.5, a little bit juiced to the over. The model says 8.45. So same thing I'm going to say at some of the other games here, over or pass in this game. This one would be a prime candidate for a first five over. We'll see when that number comes out. But both these starting pitchers are good. Both the bullpens behind them are fairly solid. So it's not like it's I really need the bullpens involved type situation. The game's going to cool down as the night goes along. So you have more likely to have runs early on because the warmer weather, ball, flying out a little bit more. Both these offenses are good enough. If you get the right number for the first five total, especially if you get a 3.5, might be looking at a first five over. It's over or pass, whether you like the full game, the first five. I think that's probably the smartest way to attack this one. Twins in the National, 6:45 p.m. Eastern, around 80 degrees to start, low 70s to close, 5 to 10 mile an hour wind out. Can be pretty hitter friendly. They're already a slightly hitter friendly ballpark, and the conditions are going to be even more hitter friendly than that. Joe Ryan and Patrick Corbin. Joe Ryan's a guy we've loved for a couple of years now. We've loved backing him. 3.57 ERA, advanced metrics even better than that. One of the better starting pitchers in baseball. Nothing else really to say about him. Patrick Corbin is not good. 5.59 ERA, and while the underlying metrics are better than that, for instance, a 4.40 xFIP, that 4.40 xFIP still isn't very good. He's still one of the weaker starting pitchers in baseball. Most guys that have 4.40 xFIPs end up out of the league or in the bullpen, or they end up as back of the rotation guys. And that's what Patrick Corbin is at this point. It's a back of the rotation guy. His benefit at this point is he can eat some innings. He tends to get some run support for whatever reason, but in general, he's not a very good pitcher when it's because they're scoring runs. Here's the issue right now with the injuries and who's in the lineup for the Nats. The model is just gotten really down on their offense. There was a time when the model had the Nats offense more like in the 20th best offense, and it just keeps falling and falling and falling and falling. And if Patrick Corbin's like in run support, he ain't going to get the dubs like he's been getting here in the past. Relatively speaking, he's been more of a 500 pitcher, but that's because the offense has bailed him out, and this offense just does not look like it's in good form right now. The Twins' offense is pretty solid. Again, it can kind of disappear as well. Every offense at this point, it seems like, but the top 4 or 5 have warts. The Twins' offense is not bad. The Twins' bullpen's good. The Nats' bullpen's solid, and that at least helps behind Corbin. But that's the best thing going for the Nats here. We've got the Twins winning this 65% of the time. The market has them winning it 62% of the time. And so we're a little bit higher on the Twins than the market is. Hey, anytime you got a chance to back Joe Ryan, I think it's a good idea. Anytime you get a chance to fade Patrick Corbin, it's a good idea. The only thing is you got to figure out how you might want to do that, whether it's a run line, a -1, a money line, or a parlay. We have an official recommendation of how I think the best way to play this game is over on Dub Club. Otherwise, I'll leave it to you to make your own choices, but it's Twins or pass in my book. Of note, also, we would probably like the over. The total in this game is 8. Model's projecting a little bit over 9. That's likely in combination of the hitter-friendly nature of the park. Nice night for runs. Going to stay even kind of warm towards the end of the game, still staying in the 70s. Patrick Corbin can give up a lot of runs. His Twins offense is pretty good. And so we're expecting a few more runs than the sportsbook is as well. Red Sox and the Rays, 6:50 p.m. Eastern. More than half the games are starting before 7 p.m. Eastern. It seems like on a Tuesday night. That's kind of interesting. Pitcher-friendly ballpark, of course, in Tampa. Kruper, Criswell, and Zach Littell. Criswell in his 6 starts, 2.76 ERA. Underlying metrics a little bit of a mixed bag, worse than that, but depending on how you look at it, it's hard to tell how much. He might be on the better side of average. His error bars are pretty high there. I would say he's somewhere between, kind of in this, maybe a little better than average, maybe a little bit worse than average. It's tough to say exactly where it is when you look under the hood. There's some, like I said, there's some mixed results. The models giving him the same 103 grade as it gives Zach Littell, who's kind of in a similar boat, 3.44 ERA. Some of his underlying metrics a little bit better. Both of these guys, there's definitely reason for optimism for both of them. I think you can make a case that both these guys are pitching fairly solid. Things are going in the right direction. And by the end of the season, their grades are going to be better than this. We don't want to disregard what we have did in years past. We don't overreact. But again, reason for optimism for both starting pitchers. Offensively, both these offenses grade out very average. Relievers, the Rays relievers, we do not trust whatsoever. The Red Sox relievers are pretty respectable. We've got the Red Sox winning this 48% of the time. The market says 46%, so we're a little bit higher on the Red Sox. It's Red Sox or pass. The plus 115 price right now is still a dime away from the B grade threshold, so not great value on the Red Sox, but that'd be the way we're looking. Really, when I look at these two starting pitchers, I think that's kind of the difference in determining if you're playing the Red Sox or not, is how good do you think Zach Littell is? How good do you think Cooper Criswell is? If you think they're about the same, like the model thinks, then the Red Sox offer a little bit of value. If you're a little bit higher on Littell, that might mean you should just pass on this game instead of backing the Red Sox. And total-wise, we're pretty spot on. But as always, shop around. You never know what price you're going to find. You need multiple books in your portfolio. 3 or 4 is probably pretty sufficient. That way, you could always find the best price. You can always save yourself 5 cents, 3 cents, 8 cents, 10 cents. That's more money you win every time you win, and less money you lose every time you lose. If you don't have an account there yet, BetUS is a great place to shop at. And if you have not signed up there for an account, 125% bonus on your first ever 3 deposits.
BetUS, America's favorite sportsbook and casino. Live betting and racebook. We're celebrating 30 years with a historic offer. A 125% sign-up bonus on your first 3 deposits. Plus 10% gambler's insurance. Get started today. BetUS, where the game begins.
Carrying on with the Mariners and the Yankees, 7:05 p.m. Eastern. A little chillier in New York, mid-60s to start, around 60 degrees to close. Wind blowing in at 5 to 10 miles an hour would make this place fairly pitcher-friendly. Already a slightly pitcher-friendly ballpark, but this sort of weather is going to make it play even more pitcher-friendly. Have yet to see a really hitter-friendly day in Yankee Stadium. We'll get some of those into June, definitely into July and August, especially those Saturday, Sunday afternoon games where it's warm and the wind's blowing up. But so far, we have yet to see that. And the more days we have conditions like this is why overall Yankee Stadium can be a more pitcher-friendly ballpark, because there's more days where the conditions just aren't that warm and the ball's just not carrying that much there. And that's what we're going to have here on Tuesday night. Brian Wu and Clark Schmidt. Wu has looked really good in his first 2 starts, gets a pretty average grade. The underlying metrics are there. Last year, he was very average, but a young guy who's getting better. And I'll say the same thing about Wu, kind of that I said in the last game about Criswell and Littell. A guy who gets that same 103 grade, but definitely has some reason for optimism and could make a case he's better than that. Clark Schmidt, very similar situation, gets a little bit of a better grade already, 100 grade, so right at league average, but 2.49 ERA, and the underlying metrics are pretty solid around the 350 mark. Again, 2 pitchers with nothing bad to say about them. You like the form that they're in. Things look great. Nothing really bad to say. The model has the Yankees now as the number 1 offense in baseball, and it makes sense that they'd have something going for them like that because of the fact that they're doing so well record-wise. The model doesn't like their bullpen as much. Kind of thinks that the bullpen ERA is looking so good. A little bit of that is luck, but also again they're playing most of their games again in a fairly pitcher-friendly ballpark and what's been pitcher-friendly environments this time of year. That won't happen all season, but so far you might look and you say the bullpen's been the strength of the Yankees, and the bullpen's performed really well, especially the backing guys, which the model does like. But the biggest thing I think here with the Yankees at this point is that when you're playing in these really pitcher-friendly environments, that offense scoring just an average number of runs is pretty dang impressive. And the model's picked up on that. And what runs the bullpen and the starting pitchers has allowed has kind of been saying that they're just okay, that they're being benefited by the park. And so that's kind of the discrepancy there. You may disagree slightly with that and say that the Yankees offense maybe not be that good. The pitchers are a little bit better. Either way, the overall take on the Yankees remains about the same, where they're still obviously a really good team, whether it's fueled more by their offense or some by the offense, some by the relievers. It's kind of a 6-1, half a dozen the other on that one. Mariners, pretty solid team, respectable team. Average kind of across the board. Great starting pitching in general. This is one of their weaker guys, but again, nothing bad to say about Brian. We're in pretty lockstep with the market though here. We've got the Yankees winning this 59% of the time. Market says 58% of the time. We're right at what the Yankees price should be. So maybe some slight Yankees value at -147. Once it gets above -150, I don't think there's really any value left in the Yankees. And the total is pretty spot on as well. We've got it at 7.9. The market's got it at 7. We've got 7.8. The market's at 7.94. So slightly juiced to the under on the 8. And my point kind of being there that if you think the Yankees offense isn't as good as I think, and you think the relievers are better, then that actually makes you like the under in this game. So because we're high on this Yankees offense and think that it's a lot of the park factor, and this is a cool night here. This would be a game where if that Yankees offense isn't as good as the model's got, if their bullpen a little bit better, the model would project more like 7.5. And so you might be thinking about an under 8, hoping that you can at least escape with a 4-3 type victory. So if that's your take, I think it's done pretty well. I think it's priced pretty well. So I'm passing the total, but that's something, if you disagree with that, then maybe you have a slightly different way to play this game than I would. White Sox and the Blue Jays, 7:07 p.m. Eastern, first pitch. Roof probably open in Toronto. It was a nice day here, nice night, mid-70s, low 70s to finish. Garrett Crochet and Yusei Kikuchi, a pair of lefties. Crochet, again, one of the better pitchers for the White Sox, a guy I've been touting all season long, had a bad start or two and a ballooned ERA. His ERA is now down to 4.18. XFIP at 2.61. His ERA is going to continue to come down if he keeps pitching the way he's been all season. He's really, really good. And I'd say the same thing about Kikuchi. Just what a fantastic year. Every time he comes around, I don't know what else to say about this guy at this point. 2.60 ERA, XFIP in the low 3s. I mean, this is not what we saw coming from him. He's having a fantastic season, and he's actually pitched better than that 92 grade. So 2 pitchers here that I'm really high on, 2 lefties. Of note, the same thing we've been saying for years now. This Blue Jays offense is very right-handed heavy that benefits them facing a lefty in Crochet. So that's kind of the one spot where Crochet is going to run up against it. I think he's a very good pitcher, but this Blue Jays offense is pretty average against righties, but against lefties with all those right-handed bats projects out to be one of the top 5 offenses, almost top 5, maybe top, whatever, really good offenses. And so that's kind of the edge here for the Blue Jays. Of course, the other edge is that the White Sox offense just isn't that good, so you expect Kikuchi to have a lot of success. Blue Jays bullpen, not very good. Of course, it's much better than the White Sox bullpen, which we have as dead last. We've got the Blue Jays winning the 65% of the time. Market is at the 61%. So it's Blue Jays or pass. We are just inside the B grade threshold, which the model says is -169. So if you get -165 or better, that makes it a B grade play. The model's highest opportunity there. As I mentioned previously, it's Blue Jays or pass, whether it's Blue Jays run line or -1, money line parlay, however you want to do it. I'll leave it to you to figure that out, viewer. But if you are looking for a little more guidance, I do have a suggested recommendation of how I would play this game specifically over on Dub Club. Total-wise, we're a little bit higher than the market, would lean over. It's a 7.5. I probably wouldn't be going over 7.5 for the same reasons I mentioned earlier. Might be looking first 5. Would love to get these bullpens involved with an over, though, because I don't trust either one of these bullpens. And so at that point, I'd be holding out for a 7, really would be the number I'd be wanting before I played this full game over. Braves and the Cubs, 7:40 p.m. Eastern, 1-1 in Chicago. Folks, might be a fun night. About 80 degrees to start. Upper 70s to close. And right now, we're more than 24 hours away. So come back, check your favorite weather site, check us out on Dub Club. I'll have an update in the morning. But right now, we're looking at a 15 to 20 mile an hour wind, up to 25 mile an hour, maybe even 30 mile an hour gust out to left center. The ball might fly here on Tuesday night. Could be a very fun night. If you, like I have, Charlie Morton on your fantasy team, might not be the best night to start them, as the ball could jump. No total yet from the market because, again, they want to see more information about the weather because this projected total could change because the weather there really matters. You can get a little bit, shift a little bit here and there really matters in Wrigley, but could be a lot of runs. Charlie Morton and Javier Assad. Morton's been great this season, one of the best starts to his starts of a season in his career. He usually picks it up more midseason. He's been very solid. Javier Assad, 9 starts at a 1.49 ERA. Obviously, he's not that good, but his xFIP's in the upper 3s. That's pretty dang good. And the model really likes him. The model thinks that these 2 starting pitchers are both very good. I feel like I'm saying it a lot here. There's days where I don't love the starting pitching, and I'm really concerned about it. But I like a lot of the starting pitchers here tonight on Tuesday. Both these guys are pretty solid. Of course, the Braves have an edge on offense. The Braves have an edge at reliever. We've got the Braves winning this 50% of the time. The market has them at 53% of the time. I think the reason why is I think the market is thinking that Charlie Morton is the much better pitcher, and I don't know if I would agree with that. I think that Assad's, again, not as good as that 1.49 ERA, but I think he's a very strong pitcher. I think the Cubs offense a little bit healthier now than it was at one point. And I think they're not as good as the Braves offense, of course, but I think, at this point, I think they're at home. They have a chance to hang in there. The biggest concern is the bullpen. The thing that Assad can give them is some length and get them to shorten the game. That's going to be the key to this game, is if he can go deeper. The other key to this game can be the weather. We're projecting 9.5 towards 10 runs. If it turns into a home run derby, who knows what's going to happen. And that's going to bring the probability either team wins this game closer to 50-50 in one of those wild, what the heck's going on. The model will tell you there's value in the Cubs. I'm not sure I'd be playing it at plus 110. I'd want a little bit better than that. But again, with the weather being such a big factor on this one, I'm waiting on them till the morning to see more before I make any decisions. Tigers and the Royals, 7:40 p.m. Eastern, first pitch, upper 70s to start, upper 60s to close, 15 to 20 mile an hour wind here. But going to want to check back in the morning. A little bit out, a little bit in, a little bit across, a little bit shifting around. Right now, I'm just going to assume on average it comes across even, but it might be more out to start and warmer to start, which means you might have a lot of runs early. And then if it starts shifting in as the weather cools down, not to say you can have runs late because walks and singles and stuff like that, but it's harder to get runs off walks and singles than it is extra base hits, which is where the weather's going to help us out. So maybe more runs early than late is something to keep in mind here. But again, want to check back on the weather because this wind is strong enough to matter the direction it's going. And right now it's really kind of on the fence as to exactly what's going to happen. Casey Mize and Alec Marsh. Mize, 3.50 ERA in his 8 starts. Underlying metrics line up with that really good stuff. He gets a bad grade because of previous seasons, but so far, so good for him. Alec Marsh, really similar story, 2.43 ERA. Underlying metrics, obviously not that good, but still very good. Only a 99 grade because of previous seasons. Again, if I just were to look at this season, both these guys grade out much better than this. It's that we don't want to overreact and throw out last season's information because that still matters, but it's mattering less and less by start. So these guys' grades are both going in the right direction. I don't trust either one of these offenses. I'm not sure I trust either one of these bullpens at this point, especially the Royals bullpen going kind of in the wrong direction here. I think that's part of the reason why they've maybe come back to earth a little bit from that really hot start. The offense is getting a little bit worse. The bullpen's getting a little bit worse. Their starting pitching is still good, and that's still what's been carrying them. And so far, that's what Alec Marsh has done. But other than that, it's going to be really all on him. I think we do have the Royals win this 55% of the time. So it's Royals or pass, again, mainly on the strength of Marsh as a starting pitcher, I think. The Royals bullpen, again, going kind of the wrong direction. I still trust them more than the Tigers bullpen. The market's at minus 117. We want that to get to minus 110 before it gets to a B grade play. The model's, again, highest recommendation. It's Royals or pass. I would not be on the Tigers. Total-wise, we've been pretty over on a lot of these Royals games here as of late. Been a little bit of a mixed bag here, but the weather has been really advantageous. The park's advantageous for runs. Tuesday night might be the same way, might not be. It really depends on exactly what that wind does. We would lean over, but it would not be a strong over like it has been at recent times. Orioles and the Cardinals, 7:45 p.m. Eastern. First pitch, mid-80s, start around 80 degrees to close. We're going to be blowing out at 10 to 15 miles an hour. Going to be very hitter-friendly. Kyle Bradish and Lance Lynn. Tuesday night seems to be a night where there's a lot of hitter-friendly weather and a lot of good pitching. And so that's going to be an interesting take for across the board. Lance Lynn, though, not one of those better pitchers. 4.17 ERA, underlying metrics slightly worse than that. Subpar. Kyle Bradish, though, only 3 starts, of course, as he's been a little bit hurt. But having a solid season was pretty solid last year. So the Orioles definitely have an edge here at starting pitching. They have an edge on offense. They're one of the top offenses in baseball. Sidelines got them at number 4. Bullpen-wise, both bullpens good. Cardinals bullpen better. But we are in lockstep with the market on this one. Us and the market both have the Orioles winning 54% of the time. So no edge to be found there on the side. Maybe there is in the first 5. We'll see in the morning. But the other thing of note, of course, is that the market has this total 8.5. We've got it at 9.42. So an over or pass type situation, in spite of the fact that you've got a guy like Kyle Bradish on the mound, who is a very good pitcher. Angels and the Astros, 8:10 p.m. Eastern, first pitch, upper 70s in Houston for this one. My hunches are going to close the roof, upper 70s in Houston, but the humidity can be fairly warm. If they open the roof up, the ball might fly a little bit more than the model's realizing, especially if there's some of that, that warmer air, right, getting in there, as opposed to when they close the roof and the temperature is going to get more into the low 70s. So something to keep an eye on there in Houston. You never really know what they're going to do. And they're, like I said, my hunch is roof closed because the humidity could make that feel a little bit worse. Griffin Canning and Christian Javier. Canning 5.21 ERA, not quite that bad, but also not good. One of the weaker starting pitchers here on this Tuesday night. Christian Javier, after that terrible start coming back from a terrible rehab start, ERA on the season under 3.23. He was the guy I was high on coming into the season. I mentioned this before, that I really thought last year was a case of a tired arm, too many innings the year before, the World Baseball Classic thing, all of that stuff. And so last year I think was expected to be a dinner. All the underlying metrics were down, but I expected him to have a bounce back season this year. That was looking fairly good until that injury, and then he didn't look good in that rehab start. And I made the comment when he started last week, I was like, I'm not trusting him yet. That was a terrible first start back. He didn't look good in the rehab start. He didn't know where the ball was going. And until he figures it out, we've got to see it until then before we can back him. Now at this point, after that last start, he does seem to know where the ball's going. And so there is some positivity there towards Javier. The concern with him, the xFIP is still pretty high. It's in the low 5s. Now, it's not that many innings for him, but that is the concern. And that's why he's on the wrong side of 100 for his grade there. Again, 100 is average. Higher means more runs. Lower means less runs. And so that's really the thing holding him back, is that xFIP, which is fueled by the fact that he's been a little bit lucky with the home run rate, and the walks are still up there a little bit. Part of that is he had one terrible start with a bunch of walks. And so that's just going to take some time to come down. That last start was encouraging. The Angels' offense is subpar, so I have to trust Javier at this point. I still want to see it again, but given the Angels' offense, given what I saw the last start, I think we probably can have a little bit of faith in Javier at this point, at least being a solid pitcher, being the better pitcher here. The Astros bullpen definitely better than the Angels bullpen. Astros bullpen, again, looking great here. The Astros offense looking great. All the things I said about them, we faded them early in the season when things weren't going well, when the pitching was hurt, when the starting pitching was hurt. And again, we talked about the bullpen being, they'll be fine. They'll come around. Trust me on this one. And sure enough, they've looked a whole lot better. This Astros team put themselves in quite a hole, but you look what they've done here the last few weeks. They look really good. They should be able to continue that against the Angels. Now, as an Astros fan, I can tell you, I have seen this every year in the last several years now, where they look like they figured it out and they'll get a home series against somebody they should sweep and they'll lose like 3 out of 4. So you never know when that's going to be here. So don't put all your money in the Astros saying that they figured out and they're going to be the best team in the American League now, because every once in a while they just completely lose focus. But I'm wondering if that slow start maybe will help prevent that a little bit this year. They've looked really good as of late. Unfortunately, of course, here for us, we've got them winning 66% of the time. The market has them winning 65% of the time. So we're pretty much in lockstep with the market. So not really a huge edge right now. Maybe there's an Astros -1 edge in the morning. I would be hesitant to say first 5, because in general with these bullpens, I want the full game. But again, we'll just see what the first 5 price is. So I like the Astros here, to win this game. And of course, the market does as well. So I'm not sure there's really good betting value here. The price of the Angels not good enough really to take a shot. Again, I have to trust Javier at this point based off what I've seen last time. Not enough to say let's full on back him, but enough to say we're not getting good enough price on the Angels to fade him. Total wise, again, of note, if the roof is open, the projected total from the model would probably jump up more towards 9, and so you might have an even stronger overlook than this is right now. This is more of a lean over according to the model, but you might have a good overlook if the roof is open. You have to check back, of course, tomorrow to find out on that, since it's more than 24 hours out. They haven't told us yet what they're going to do. Rockies and the A's, 9:40 p.m. Eastern. First pitch here, about 7 degrees to start, mid 60s to close. 5 to 10 mile an hour wind blowing out. A warmer day for Oakland. You don't get a ton of games starting at 72 degrees in Oakland. A lot of times it's starting in the low 60s. So a slightly warmer night. Ball might carry a little bit here of note because it doesn't really carry much in that park. Going to make it play a little bit more neutral than we typically see in Oakland. Cal Quantrill and Aaron Brooks. Quantrill, 3.66 ERA. Underlying metrics a little bit higher. Having a solid season. Started off a little bit rocky. Pun intended, get it. But so far, pretty okay. And a guy who lets him put the ball in play. A little bit concerned about how that's going to go in his home starts, but last start he looked great in San Diego. And I made the comment. I said, "Hey, a guy who lets the team put the ball in play in San Diego, great." Same thing in Oakland. Now, again, a little bit of a concern here. The ball might fly a little bit more than usual, but I'd rather him put the ball in play at a park like Oakland than in Colorado. So, not overly high on him, but not too down either. Aaron Brooks for the A's, great first start. And if he continues to do that, I think coming up from his minor league numbers, we had him at like a 115 or something. And so it's a massive jump from him after a really good first start. Let's see if he can continue to do it. He should have success because this Rockies offense is terrible. But not going to overreact too much. But again, his grade's definitely going in the right direction after a really impressive first start. The A's have kind of slid backwards. They were around 500. Now they're 11 games under 500 entering Monday night. Part of that is the bullpen was a top 10 unit. Now it's back towards the middle of the pack. They've been giving up some runs, a little bit more like we expected at the start of the season. Still better than what we thought coming into the season, but they've had a real hard time here lately getting the ball to Mason Miller, who's one of the best closers in baseball. Still a solid bullpen, but they've had a few too many holes here, and that's kind of been a little bit bringing back. Of course, of note, they've also had some starting pitching injuries, which have hurt them as well. These are the better team here, though, and at home, the model says they win this 59% of the time. The market's only got them at 51% of the time. The market, the only thing I can tell you on this is that the market is looking at the Rockies' recent offensive, I don't want to say explosion. That makes it sound like more than it is. The fact that they've scored some runs here in the last week and a half, as this offense is as good as the A's offense. And I don't think that's true. I think, then they scored some of those in San Diego, and that's impressive enough. But we cannot overreact to what's happened in 4 games or 6 games or whatever cherry-picking games we're doing here. I think the market is thinking that Cal Quantrill is the much better starting pitcher here. The model was really impressed with what Aaron Brooks did in his first start. I'm not completely sure that these two pitchers are even. Cal Quantrill might be the better pitcher. I think that's very possible. But again, he's still got a 480 FIP. So at some point, how good is he, right? He's still got a 436 xFIP. And so maybe you say xFIP is what we should be using for Rockies pitchers. And I would say that's fine because one of the main differences here, the main difference is FIP is going to use actual home run rate and xFIP is going to use expected home run rate, and your home run rate's going to be higher, of course. And that's where he's pitching half his games. So if you're to say that, I think sure, that's fine. But even if he's a 436, I'm projecting him at a 452 right now. It's pretty close to what he's done this season. And historically, he's been just fairly average. He had better numbers last year in Cleveland. That's a very pitcher-friendly ballpark in Cleveland. A top 5 pitcher-friendly ballpark, right around 5th, probably if I off the top of my head. I'm just not sure he's that good. He's okay, and he might be the better pitcher, but it isn't by much. So I'm really confused as to why the A's are not bigger favorites in this one. The model doesn't give the A's as much home field advantage. It only affects 2 things on home field. It affects the Rockies, and it affects the A's. It doesn't give the A's much home field advantage because the last couple of years, they haven't had very many fans. And it's been of note a little bit depressing their play. And so that could affect some of their players, and they've been a little bit better on the road than most teams relative to their home road splits because of that. And the Rockies, because they have one of the best home field advantages in baseball, the best, because of the altitude and how that affects the spin on the pitch and whatnot, and knowing how to play in that ballpark. So it's not even giving the A's full home field advantage. And so, like I said, I don't quite understand why the model is treating this as a 50-50 game. The A's should be favored in this game. I know they've struggled as of late. Other Rockies are playing better as of late, but the A's are still, whatever, 3 games better than them in the standings in the season. And, that matters. That I'm not to say that we can't just, we don't want to ignore what's happened the last 2 weeks, but that's not the only information we have. And to act like it is, if we were to do that, we would be wildly overreacting in every which way possible, 8 out of 10 times. And so anyway, all I'd say, it's A's or pass. Again, I've got an official recommendation for how to play this over on Dub Club. You might look first 5, you might look full game, might look a lot of different directions on it, but we've got that official recommendation over on Dub Club if you're interested. But it's A's or pass in a game that the total is projected at a little bit more than 8. Market's got it a little bit more than 7.5. And wrapping us up, 10 p.m. Eastern, Diamondbacks and the Dodgers. A chilly night in Los Angeles. Upper 50s to start, mid 50s to close. A slight breeze blowing out. It'll play pitcher friendly. The breeze out will help a little bit. But anytime you're in the 50s, the ball's not going to fly that much. Brandon Pfaadt and Gavin Stone. Brandon Pfaadt, 4.17 ERA, but underlying metrics better than that. I like this kid. I think he's a very solid pitcher. I think Gavin Stone's pretty solid as well. 3.27 ERA. Advanced metrics a little bit higher than that, but a 3.81 FIP still. XFIP tiny bit higher. 2 very solid pitchers, 2 very okay bullpens. Again, as mentioned, the Dodgers bullpen takes a little bit of a hit because Evan Phillips. The model isn't catching on to the Dodgers bullpen, though, is very unique in that they've got like 7 starting pitchers here that they've used. I think 7 different starting pitchers this last week. And that doesn't include Ryan Yarbrough, who came in relief on Sunday after Landon Knack, who's been like basically a starter for them, more or less. He's been a bulk guy, been the guy who comes in and throws 3 or 4 innings. That's unique. And the model, maybe I need to code something in about this, but I think it makes the Dodgers bullpen better than the model realizes because they can say fresher, because when you use 7 starting pitchers in a week and you have an 8th guy to eat a bunch of innings, and you're shuffling them back between the minors and the majors, what that means for the other like 5 or 6 main bullpen guys is that they're staying really fresh. And that matters. So I think the Dodgers bullpen probably a little bit better than the model realizes because the way they're able to use them by having all these starting pitchers is just a very unique setup. So that's just something I've been thinking about here lately. Diamondbacks offense is pretty solid. They kind of can be up or down, hit or miss. Again, we talk about other than the top handful of offenses, that's how they all are, right? They all can kind of be hit or miss. It seems like Dodgers offense really good, consistently up there in the top handful. Really nothing more to say than that. We've got the Dodgers winning this 58% of the time. The market says 62%. I don't think anything's wrong with Gavin Stone, but I'm pretty high on Brandon Pfaadt. I'm not saying I'd play the Diamondbacks here. We are not quite to that B grade threshold, but it's Diamondbacks or pass. Maybe a Diamondbacks +1, +1.5 might make some sense. We are not quite to that B grade threshold again, but the plus 157 is only 4 cents short of it. And again, that the market is at 9 for the total, little juice to the under, but we think it should be more in the 8.5 range. Again, chilly night, not sure how well the ball is going to fly. That's all I've got here for today. Again, remember, if you're interested in more picks, more projections, the Discord chat, play of the day, all sorts of goodies, you can find all that in the Dub Club Honor Roll package, or if you're looking for just the play of the day, there is a discounted play of the day only package available. That link is the first one in the show description. Otherwise, though, thanks for watching. Best of luck, and remember, you can eat your betting money, but please don't bet your eating money.